Have you ever looked at two businesses selling almost the same thing and wondered why one is absolutely thriving while the other is just getting by? Well, the secret isn't about being cheaper. In fact, chasing the lowest price might just be the single worst thing you can do. Today, we're going to completely flip how you think about pricing.
You know, when it comes to pricing, most businesses are asking the wrong question. They're looking over their shoulder at the competition and thinking, how can we be cheaper? But the really successful ones, they're asking a totally different question. What is this worth to our customer? That one little shift, it changes absolutely everything.
All right, first, let's talk about the big trap that so many businesses fall right into. It's a strategy that feels safe, but trust me, it's a race to a dead end.
The two most common traps are cost plus and competitor matching. Cost plus is pretty simple, right? You figure out your costs, tack on a little extra for profit, and boom, that's your price. Competitor matching is, frankly, even worse. You just copy what your rivals are doing, maybe knock off a few bucks to look like a deal. Both of these feel logical, but they put a hard ceiling on your potential from day one.
And here's the kicker. When you compete on price, you attract customers who only care about price. These aren't your loyal fans who love what you do. Nope, they're deal hunters, and they will drop you the second a cheaper option comes along. You end up constantly fighting to win over people who have zero intention of ever sticking around.
And that, my friends, is what we call the race to the bottom. In today's market, someone, somewhere will always be willing to do it for less. It's a race you literally cannot win.
So, what's the alternative? How do you get off this treadmill? Well, you have to make a huge shift in your thinking, away from what it costs you and towards what it's worth to your customer.
And this brings us to the main event, value-driven pricing. The whole philosophy here is simple. Stop pricing the product and start pricing the solution. It's not about what it costs you to make, it's about the value it creates for the person who's buying it.
Think about it this way. A bottle of water at the supermarket, maybe $3. But that exact same bottle of water, after you've gone through airport security, you're thirsty, and your flight is delayed, suddenly $6 feels like a total bargain. The product didn't change, the cost to make it didn't change, what changed was the customer's need, and that sent the perceived value through the roof. See, customers don't really buy features, they buy outcomes. They will happily pay a premium for anything that saves them time, gets rid of their stress, helps them make more money, or protects their health. That's the real value you're delivering, and that's what you should be pricing.
Okay, so once you know the value you provide, how in the world do you communicate it? The next step is all about learning to talk about what you do in a way that justifies a price that actually reflects its true worth.
You need to ask yourself this one really powerful question. Forget the features for a second. What is the before and after? What transformation does your customer get to experience because of you? For example, let's say your software saves the user 10 hours a week. You're not selling code, you're selling a free workday every single week. Or if your coaching helps the client land a $20,000 raise, that's the transformation. When you sell that outcome, the price of your service suddenly looks pretty small in comparison, doesn't it?
Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually put it into practice? Let's break it down into a simple 3-step framework.
First, you got to segment. Not all your customers value your product the same way, so you should tailor your offers. Second, test. Don't be afraid to experiment with higher prices. You might find out that a higher price actually increases how much people want it. And third, and this is so important, defend your value. You need a plan for when people say you're too expensive.
And this is how you defend your value. When a customer says, "Wow, that's too expensive," don't just jump to a discount. Instead, you reframe the entire conversation with this question. It brilliantly shifts their focus from the cost of your solution to the much, much higher cost of staying stuck with their problem.
And here is the best part. When you do this right, you achieve something way bigger than just higher profits. You actually change the entire game you're playing.
I mean, just look at the two paths. The contrast is so stark. Chasing low prices means you're always dealing with flaky customers and razor-thin margins. But when you focus on value, you build real loyalty. That actually lowers your cost to get new customers and frees up cash to reinvest in making your product even better. Your competitors get stuck fighting over pennies while you're off building an empire. Ultimately, this means you just exit the price war. You completely stop competing on who is cheapest, and you start winning on who provides the most meaningful, life-changing transformation. So, I'll leave you with this question to really think about for your own work. Stop pricing your costs and start pricing your value. Think deeply about the after you create for your customers. What is that transformation you provide actually worth? Because when you know the answer, you can price it with confidence.